Hello, my lovelies. I see there are already a couple of people waiting for me. That's really exciting. I had no idea if anybody would show up right now, but I figured I would give this opportunity to do a live Q&A. It's the first Q&A I'm ever doing live on YouTube. So I wasn't sure if the technology was going to work. Could somebody that's watching me write in the comments if they are hearing me at all? Yes. I know that the comments will come in a little bit later, but if you could let me know if you can hear me, that would be really fantastic because I'm using the mic. Because as you may know, we are in a process of renovating our house that we just moved into. And this is my clinic space. And it's really hollow because my desk is here, but that's about it. So yeah, if anybody can just let me know if the sound is okay, because then I can proceed. If you can't hear me, then this video is going to be completely pointless, obviously. So I'm just gonna wait in the comments to see if the audio is okay. And I'm also just gonna wait a little bit till a few more people come in so they don't fall into the middle of the story. I know I said I was going to start at 8:30, but people always tend to come in late, right? Audio is great, thank you. I just needed that confirmation. That's fantastic. But as I was saying, people always come in late into these kind of videos, honestly. So do I, because I think beginning is just the introduction. But anyway, those of you that are already here, thank you so much. That is really encouraging. And then I don't feel like I'm talking into outer space as much. So yeah, today I am going to talk to you about the program that I'm starting. So this is a detoxing program. I don't know if you've been able to read anything about it because I have been posting about it the last couple of days, but I know with social media, it's easy to miss things. So in the description of this video, you should be able to see a link to a Facebook post where I explain everything. So you can have a look at that while I'm chatting, but perhaps I can just explain to you what I'm doing and that will give you enough information. So detoxing is something that I do so much with my patients. It's probably the first thing I have to do before any of the homeopathic remedies or supplements can have an effect on people's fertility so that they can conceive naturally and hold on to their pregnancies. Now, obviously, I'm going on maternity leave because the belly is growing. So we're doing this live video together now. And since I'm going on maternity leave half July, I haven't been able to take on any new patients for quite a while. And I have been doing fertility assessments, so you can still book those in. I can look at your charts. We can talk about your symptoms, and I can give you an idea of what your hurdles are. The problem was 9 out of 10 times I would be able to identify a block, such as synthetic hormones that have been used in the past that are blocking the hormonal system, or heavy metals, or any kind of other types of drugs. And then I would say, oh yeah, you need a detox. And they'd be like, can you do it? I'm like, no, I'm sorry, I'm not taking on patients. So that was really unsatisfying. I did refer a couple of people to some colleagues. And then last week I thought, isn't there any way at all that I could help a bunch of people to detox soon? And 6 weeks before my maternity leave is not enough. But I had this epiphany, how about I just teach you to detox yourself? Because I'm all about empowering. You should know that if you're following me any length of time. And with homeopathy, you can do that. There are lots of things that you can treat at home yourself, like simple things, colds, coughs, sunburns, all that kind of stuff. When you're coming to the more chronic stuff or fertility issues, it's good to see a practitioner that's trained, that's gone to university and studied homeopathy to take your case. But then detoxing is something in between. I can teach you to detox yourself. And if I teach you this once, it's like, what's that saying about if somebody's hungry, you can give them a fish, or you feed them a day, teach them to fish, and you feed them a lifetime, something like that. And that's what I can do with the detoxing. So if I teach you to detox, and I'll walk you through most of your first detox and send you out the remedies, then you'll be able to do subsequent detoxes yourself if you need them. You can detox your partner. You can detox any kids you already have. You can detox parents that you have. And how cool is that? So that is the plan. What I have put together is a couple of instruction sheets, I guess, explaining exactly how you can detox. And then I send out the remedies to you when you sign up. So when you sign up, you can choose 1 to 5 detoxes, depending on what you need. One is heavy metals, and then I've got 4 synthetic ones. One is steroids, if you ever had them in the past. One is contraceptives. One is labor drugs, and one is fertility drugs. So there are 5 detoxes we can do. I'm not doing any other detoxes at the moment because it's just too much, but I feel like this covers a wide range of people. So if you sign up today, because today registration is closing, because obviously I'm on a deadline because I need to get this program started before I go on maternity leave. If you sign up today, I will make sure that remedies are posted out to you this week from one of my trusted pharmacies. And then you should be receiving your remedies anywhere from this week until the next couple of weeks, depending where you are in the world. We'll make sure that it's tracked and that you get them. But I will send out the instructions this week so you can see how you can detox. And then starting next week, I'm opening up a private group. And this group is not on Facebook. I've purposely done it off Facebook because of privacy reasons and because I don't want people to have to be signed up to Facebook in order to participate in the program. So I'm testing this platform called, and I already forgot the name, Mighty Meeting, I think so, Mighty Meeting. And I'm setting up a group there, or I already have, and there we'll be able to talk to each other. You can ask your questions. I'm going to do weekly live videos answering all your questions about detoxing. So if you've started and you've got certain reactions, you can ask me about it. And I'll be doing that for the next 6 weeks. So I think that should give you a really good start to do this detoxing and learn as much as possible. And also you'll be able to connect with peers that are also detoxing, of course. Now, well, I've got a couple of questions already from some people. If you have any questions about the detoxing, make sure to write them. I see in my screen on the right side that you can type something. And I see that somebody else, my darling husband, has already typed something. So you should be able to type something. If you have questions, post them and I'll get to them. And in the meantime, I'll just explain a bit more about the program. Not the program itself, but why you should be detoxing, if you're wondering, and answer some of the questions that have already been posted in my Facebook group, because I said, if you have any questions, post them here and I'll address them in my live video. So as I said, we've got 4 synthetic hormone detoxes that we can do in these 6 weeks that we'll start with, and then we've got the heavy metals. So let's start with the heavy metals first. Heavy metals is a big issue for fertility for several reasons. First of all, a lot of people that suffer with miscarriages and recurring miscarriages especially turn out to have metal toxicity, and mostly mercury. And mercury is everywhere, unfortunately. It is especially in dental fillings. So if you've had silver, the amalgam dental fillings, either in the past or currently, then that will leak into your system. And what happens is your body doesn't know what to do with the metals. So it just tries to stuff it in nooks and crannies of your body, and it will choose especially areas of, well, organs, but also hormonal glands like your thyroid and your adrenals. And if it is stuck there, then it is going to ruin your mineral balance all over. And that is how it affects your I'm sorry, I'm really distracted. I think there's I think my husband is putting together a cupboard right now when he knows I'm doing a live. So, darling, if you're listening, please stop with the cupboard, please. So back to the metals. Hopefully it'll be a bit quieter now. If the metals are stuck in those areas, it's going to mess up your mineral balance in your system and your overall hormonal balance. And as I said, it can cause miscarriages. It also damages the DNA of sperm and of eggs. So if you don't have good quality DNA to begin with, and then those two merge, then it's really difficult for a baby to develop. So I often see that cases of missed abortions, missed miscarriages, early stages, baby just stops developing, there's no heartbeat, that kind of stuff. This is very typical for metal toxicity. So if you recognize yourself in this, a metal detox could very well be a good step for you. I have found that couples that have detoxed, that within several months after detoxing, that they have conceived and gone on to have a healthy, happy baby. And I should tell you, of course, what kind of factors may make you prone to metal toxicity. And as I mentioned, it can be the dental fillings. If you currently have them, the silver and amalgam dental fillings, then it will leak into your system. But if you had them in the past, then chances are you're still holding onto that metal toxicity. So it's quite worthwhile for you to do that kind of detox. I've had a question from somebody already emailing me. If I currently have those dental fillings, is it worth it for me to detox? The answer is yes, but chances are you will need to repeat it every now and then because it continues to leak into your system. But it's definitely worth it to be doing that. And you know what? If one partner is detoxing the metals, you might as well have the other one do it as well, because a lot of us have some kind of metal toxicity going on. And while you are detoxing metals, you shouldn't be trying to conceive. With all the other detoxes, you can totally continue, no issues. There are plenty of people that have fallen pregnant on the detoxes. But with the metals, I recommend that you don't, because I have no proof that your body is not going to dump the metals into a starting embryo, and you don't want to start with that, right? So it's better to clear yourself a bit before you try to conceive again. So some other factors that may indicate that you have metal toxicity is if you've had sperm analysis done and you have poor quality or poor count, then that could be a reason that the metal toxicity could be underlying it. However, if you have good results, it doesn't mean you have no metal toxicity. So still worthwhile to look into. If you have worked with heavy metals like dentists do, or glass blowers, or some painters, then that sets you up for metal toxicity, of course. And if you've smoked in the past or you're currently smoking, then that also sets you up for it. Also, sorry, I don't want to cough into the microphone because it's going to blow up your ears. Also, if, where was I? I have pregnancy brain, I think. I was talking about I completely lost it, but I know I was talking about the metals at least. But I also saw a message come in from Heather. Heather, thank you for asking. Could you explain why we should refrain from trying while detoxing the heavy metals? Well, I just mentioned that, so maybe me talking and your message crossed each other, but I hope I explained that well. I am not 100% convinced that if you're detoxing, that your body won't dump the metals into a embryo that has just started. And because when we detox, our body will put the metals in urine, it will put it in our stools, and also in our hair and nails. So I feel like embryo is almost like a foreign tissue. I have no proof that your body won't put it there. So that's why I recommend to not do that, because you could miscarry because of that. And there is a higher chance of autism and ADHD and developmental issues with children that have metal toxicity. So it's better to detox in advance. So some other things. Oh yes, if you've had a lot of vaccines or a lot of travel vaccines, that sets you up for metal toxicity. Oh yeah, now I finally remember what I was going to say. if you live in the city, then you're more prone to hold on to metals as well. And once you have metal toxicity, you're going to hold on to more metals in general, because metals seem to attract metals. So there you go. And then lastly, there is a physical symptom that you can look out for. If you are somebody that holds that has frequent ulcers or abscesses or infections that don't heal, that could be an indication of metal toxicity, as well as restless legs could be an indication. And then there are some really obvious symptoms, like some patients have come to me that say their perspiration smells like metals, or that once they've had a dinner that was cooked in aluminum, that they couldn't sleep all night and were perspiring, those kind of things. But you will know if you have that. Let's see. That's pretty much what I can say about metal toxicity. Oh, yeah. Speaking of abscesses, if you frequently need root canals, you have tooth abscesses, that can often be a metal thing as well. And we're also more prone to metal toxicity when in our family line, the susceptibility is passed on. And that susceptibility you can pick up on if in your family there is a lot of Alzheimer's or dementia in general, and autism is one of them as well. Parkinson's, as I mentioned, restless legs, which isn't as severe, but if that's been passed on in the family, then those are some indications that your family will be more susceptible to metal toxicity. Okay, I've talked for 15 minutes about metals, so we need to go through some other stuff. So I'll just move on. If you have more questions, leave them in the comment section on the side, and I will definitely get to them. So we need to talk about the synthetic hormones. You may be wondering why it's necessary to detox synthetic hormones, because you may understand that metals are held in the body, but you would expect that if you've had fertility drugs or labor drugs, or contraceptives, or steroids, that after you've taken them, they leave your body, right? Well, on a chemical level, yes, that's the case, or that should be the case as far as I know. However, what happens is it leaves an imprint on your hormonal system. They're all in different ways, and I'll try and explain from the different types how they leave an imprint. But when they leave that imprint, they create havoc in your hormonal system, and it's out of balance, and it stays that way. Now, occasionally your body will be able to reset, but a lot of the times that's not possible. And you see that, for example, with women that have had the contraceptive pill for a long time, and then they never get their periods again, or they don't ovulate, or they have really irregular cycles, or they just don't fall pregnant. That's because that imprint is left behind in the body. Because what contraceptive pill does, it completely stops your entire cycle and tells your body not to ovulate. So your body needs to be able to pick that back up once you stop the hormones. But a lot of the times that just doesn't happen. And the homeopathic detox helps your body reset so it can regain that balance. And that applies also to the other synthetic hormone detoxes that we will be covering. So that's the fertility drugs one. That's interesting as well, because with fertility drugs, you're doing the opposite of the contraceptives, right? You are hyper-stimulating the body to produce more eggs and hold on to the pregnancy. And then the best case scenario, a woman will fall pregnant and have their baby, and then not see the poor results of that synthetic imprint left behind until after they've had their baby, and they might not be able to have a second or a third, or whatever, or get their cycles back ever. I've written a blog post on that as well, how fertility drugs can actually leave you more infertile afterwards. But if you don't fall pregnant, but you've had all the fertility drugs, and chances are you are in more trouble than you were before, because it's almost like, I explained in the blog post as well, that if you start with fertility drugs, chances are that your hormonal system is in trouble already, right? Otherwise, you would never start those drugs. Then you start the drugs on top of it, and it's almost like you're bombing a city. And then if in the first place the city wasn't well, there aren't enough workers to rebuild the city. I hope this makes sense. I don't explain it really well, I think, but I hope it makes sense. The point is, health is being able to deal with any kind of change, whether it's internal or external. An example of internal is you eat something, your blood sugar spikes, and your body starts to produce insulin to balance out that sugar. An external example is it's really hot outside and then you start to sweat to cool yourself down. If you get a virus, you respond with an infection or a fever to burn it out. If you take the fertility drugs, that is quite heavy on your body, right? Then you should be able to regain balance afterwards. But that often doesn't happen. That is basically what I'm trying to say. So what you often see with fertility drugs afterwards is that women develop PCOS because PCOS are cysts on your ovaries, and that can be a result of overstimulating the ovaries. And not only the idea is to produce lots of eggs, but in fact, they start to develop cysts and they get into that kind of routine rather than ovulating properly. I've also had women that have had fertility drugs and completely stopped ovulating afterwards because their body got so used to the hyperstimulation, they couldn't deal with the natural levels of spikes of hormones to ovulate. And a lot of women have gotten really irregular cycles. And as far as the contraceptives, I also see PCOS happening there and also estrogen dominance happening afterwards. But by detoxing fertility drugs or contraceptives, I've seen cycles restore, become more regular, women not having clotting anymore in their periods, having shorter periods, more around the 4 days, or longer periods if they've had only like a day, and they become bright red. They suddenly get cervical mucus, which they stopped having after having all the medication. So those are all indications that fertility is restoring, and that's what you can see with these detoxes. I've also had women that were previously hypothyroid and then became hyperthyroid and had to reduce their medication because of that, because their thyroid restored. So a lot of cool stuff can happen just by removing that imprint so your body can reset and regain that hormonal balance. A lot of people don't need any other homeopathic treatment after that once they've had the detox, and that's why I want to teach you, because this may be all that you need. We've also got the labor drugs. There's not a whole lot I can say about that. It just works in the same way as all the other synthetic hormones. The big one is Pitocin or oxytocin or synthocyanin. It's the same thing. It is what induces labor or encourages contractions. It is what we produce naturally, but what we produce naturally works completely different from what we're given synthetically. Yes, synthetically, it also starts contractions, but it doesn't have the cushioning and the qualities of natural oxytocin. So that is why it can really disrupt your hormonal cycle as well. And not only that, it can also disrupt the hormonal cycle of your baby. So a lot of children that have oxytocin damage are crybabies, and they are really alert and really restless. So I detox that with a lot of babies as well. But if you've had labor drugs in the past and you feel like you've never become the same person since, your cycles are off, you've had issues conceiving, then detoxing that might be the right thing to do. And then we've got the steroids as well. Steroids are obviously given for lots of different things, but they all have to do with things like infections and asthma and eczema, that kind of stuff. But they are also hormones, and they are the corticosteroids that are produced by your adrenals as well, except they are the synthetic ones. And they just completely shut down your immune system, and they disrupt your hormonal system. And I find that they do it in such a way that homeopathic remedies basically don't get through to a person. I recently had a case of a lady that has had steroids as well, and we tried with homeopathic remedies otherwise than the detox, we just couldn't get through. I've also got a blog post on that on my website, so if you're interested, I'll link all of that stuff below. So you can have a look, or you can just search while I ramble on. So there is an order to detox these things in. And the very first thing you need to detox if you have this toxicity is metals. Because as I said, you shouldn't try to conceive if you have that, and you can try to conceive with all the other ones. So if you suspect that you have metal toxicity, you need to do that one first. The second one you need to do is steroids. So if you don't have metal toxicity, then you move on to steroids. I need to take a sip. My throat's getting dry. I'm so excited so many of you decided to join me live. Thank you. I really appreciate that. I've got a few questions here, and I'll definitely get to those later on. I'll just finish my ramble story. So yes, the second one is steroids. If you don't suspect that you have metal toxicity, just move on to the steroids. If you've never had steroids, you don't think you have metal toxicity, but you've had the contraceptives or fertility drugs or labor drugs, then you can move on those straight away without any issues. And those three, there is not really an order in importance, except for this chronological. So the last thing you had, you detox first. I really hope I'm making sense. I feel bad for you guys when I ramble, but you seem to understand me. You're pretty amazing. So let's say you had contraceptives when you were a teenager, and then last year you had a couple of rounds of Clomid. Then you would start with the fertility drugs, and then afterwards you would do the contraceptives. But since you can continue to try and conceive, if you conceive while on the fertility drugs detox, you don't have to do the contraceptives one. You could decide to do it later on because it's probably blocking some stuff, but it is not such a bad block because you're apparently able to conceive. If you have more questions about that, pop it in. I'll answer it more clearly. And then I'll get to some of the questions. I've got a few here from my Facebook group, but let me start with the live one because you made an effort to show up. I answered Heather's question. Emma, hello, lovely lady and fellow pregnant mama. So glad you're offering this for those who need this. Aw, thank you, Emma. I'm so happy. Emma is also having her baby soon, and we did some really important detoxes. So thank you for joining, even though you've already done that. But yeah, that was really important and crucial in her case. So really happy to have you here. It's Kristen. What currency are the detoxes in? Oh, they're in euros because I'm in the Netherlands. Just trying to convert to US dollars. Also, how long between each detox do you need to wait? Yeah, I probably should have converted it for you in dollars. But if you can type it into Google, you should be able to see what the total amount is. So it's 250 euros for the detox program that includes the remedies that are sent to you. You can add on extra detoxes if you want to do those in the future, since I'll be teaching you to detox right at the beginning with your first detox, and you'll be able to do subsequent ones yourself. So I'm offering those detoxes at discounted prices, and it's like a downward slope. The more detoxes you have, the less you pay per detox, I guess. So have a look at that. If you book, then I think you can pay with your either a credit card or a debit card, and you'll be invoiced for whatever currency you live in. And how long you need to wait between each detox. You don't really need to wait a long time. I would say leave at least a week, but go with your intuition. Maybe you feel like you need to wait a bit longer. But I would give it at least a week just to give your body a bit of a break. Heather, we crossed paths. Oh yeah, about the comment. Thank you. It was worth the delay for a healthy pregnancy. Oh, good. I agree. I'm so glad you feel that way, Heather, because a lot of people find it really hard to not try to conceive while they're doing the metal detox because they feel like the pregnancy is even further away, while in reality it's closer. If you wait with the detox while you need it, yeah, then it makes more sense to invest that amount of time at the beginning. So I'm so glad that you feel that way. I'm really happy to have you on board and excited to get to know you better in the group. And it's Kristen had another question. Also, what if you aren't sure if you have metal detox? Can I still do that, or do you have to know for sure? Oh, that's a really good question. No, you don't have to know for sure. Because what I do with patients sometimes is they do a hair mineral test, and then I can determine from that if they have metal toxicity. Now, if you've done a hair mineral test, it doesn't always necessarily show you the metal toxicity, because if it's hidden, it's deep inside your body and you won't see it in the hair because your body is not detoxing the metals, it's just hiding it. But I can interpret that from the mineral transport ratios. So sometimes I do give people that test if they want to do it, but if I see any indications in your case, like all the ones I mentioned earlier, then I will say, listen, I think you are safer off to just do the detox. And honestly, my husband and I think I did a metal detox a very long time ago because I did have metal toxicity. But for my husband, we never tested it, but I was pretty sure he had it. So we both detoxed. I think most of the couples, we don't do the hair mineral tests. We just go by the symptoms. Right. So keep writing your questions. I love that you post them live. And in the meantime, I will get to some of the questions that I had in the group. Inge Fleur, what kinds of indications would there be if I'm needing a detox? I'm not certain. I hope I rambled long enough to explain that to you by now. Basically, with heavy metals, we talked about that. If you've ever had any silver dental fillings, or you currently have them, if you have restless legs, if you have recurring infections and abscesses that don't resolve, if you worked with metals, if you have smoked or are smoking, and if you or if you live in the city, and those are all really good indications. Poor sperm count, poor sperm quality, and recurring miscarriages. Those are all indications that could point towards metal toxicity. All of the other stuff, the synthetic hormones, if you've ever had them, if you've ever had steroids, if you've ever had contraceptives, if you've ever had labor drugs or fertility drugs, and your cycles are off, or you're having issues conceiving, or you want to set yourself up in the best way possible, then detoxing is absolutely worth it. 2. How long does the metal detox? How long does the metal detox would usually take? Okay, yeah, I get it. How long does a metal detox take? Well, the detoxes are all basically the same. This is the bit that I find really exciting, because I'm going to teach you 2 ways of detoxing. Now, there are a lot of homeopaths that work with 8-week protocols, and that one I will teach you, because then you can just go through the detox, especially if you don't want to be doing it for a long time and you just want to remove most of the toxicity, or if your partner is not really on board for doing something very extensive, and you say to them, if you do it for 8 weeks, will you do it? And they say yes, then you can do that. So I'm teaching you that method. But I'm also teaching you what I call the individualized dosing method. And I don't know any homeopaths that do this, but I find that this is way more thorough than just a protocol type of detox. With a protocol type of detox, I feel like maybe 70% of the toxicity is removed with 80% of the people, something like that. I'm kind of just, making it up. But this is my intuition when I look at the experience I have and all the patients I have. With the individualized dosing method, I am detoxing with you, and depending on how you react, we will know how much of the detox you need. So we pause and we start, and we pause and we start, and we continue and with the remedies until you stop reacting, because that tells me that you have cleared a layer. So this is a bit more difficult to learn, but you will get the hang of it really quickly. And I find that this is the most thorough way of doing it. And so if you do the protocol type, that's 8 weeks, that's it, you're done. So you can do that. If you do the individualized dosing method, if you don't react to the remedies at all, that doesn't mean you're not clearing, but you don't have any reactions that make it stall, then you could be done in 4 weeks. And then I always do like a mini top-up detox afterwards. That's about 14 days. So then you could be done in 6 weeks. If, however, you react, then you have to pause, wait for a reaction to go down, restart, etc., etc., etc. I find that method is the best method, but it's not always possible for everyone. So that's why I'm teaching both. And in that case, it could take up to 3 months. But again, it can be much shorter. It could be 8 weeks. It could be anything in between. I've never had anybody that takes longer than 3 months. So that's the honest truth. You can decide which version you want to do, because I'm going to teach you both. That was the second part. How long does the metal detox take, since that means having to be out of trying to conceive for the period of time? Yeah, I see that this is a concern for a lot of people, but you can do it. It's worth it. And as I said, you could do the 8-week protocol, see how it goes. But I would recommend the individualized dosing method. But I've had plenty of people do the 8 weeks and then fall pregnant just fine. What does it mean by additional detoxes? Yeah, because when you book, you will book one detox, and then you have the choice to book additional detoxes. So I kind of explained that already, but the detox program includes one set of remedies for one type of detox, and I teach you how to detox that with the protocols and the instructions, and then the 6 weeks of videos and the group. Actually, the group will stay up longer, and I might dip in and out, but I'll do 6 weeks of live videos. If you want to do more detoxes because you think, I need to do heavy metals, and I need to do steroids, and I need to do fertility drugs maybe, then you book the one detox and then 2 additional detoxes. So that should hopefully be clear when you book. But you can just do one detox. You don't have to do more. You can do up to 5. Here's another question. Let's see if I have any more live questions. No more live questions at the moment. You mentioned a correlation with metal toxicity and Alzheimer's or Parkinson's. Yes, and I talked about that earlier in this video already. This has to do more with metal toxicity susceptibility. And the question is, can a detox also be helpful when you have family members that struggle with other mental health problems like OCD, depression, bipolar, or even paranoid schizophrenia? And I'd say yes. So if you intend to do a heavy metal detox and you have somebody like that in your family, then you can detox them with you. Absolutely. And obviously, don't take them off the medication that they've been given by their doctors. At least not without talking to them, but you can do the metal detox alongside with them. I would totally recommend that. I've had so many people that come to me and they have to do a metal detox, and then they have parents with Alzheimer's or Parkinson's or restless legs issues, and they just hop on the detox with them. Pretty cool. This lovely lady that already signed up, and she selected the fertility treatment one, but now she's wondering, she's only had 3 rounds of Clomid, and she's wondering if it's still advantageous to do the detox. Absolutely. Even if you have 1 round of Clomid, it can mess you up. So 3, absolutely. And it's the same with the contraceptive pill. I've had people that never were on the pill, but they took the morning after pill once, and they knew that their cycles were so messed up afterwards. And then we detoxed it, and that helped hugely. So often you intuitively also know if it has affected you or not. Another question about metal detox, how long it takes. And then I had a question about how exactly are you going to detox? With food or with medication? Well, I've explained that, with homeopathic remedies. So obviously we'll cover some other things as well. I'll talk about supplements that I recommend to all of my patients that are trying to conceive, supplements that can support the detoxing. It's different for metals than it is for synthetic hormones, of course. In the group, you'll also be able to post your charts so we can see where you're at. Mostly, I will be answering questions in the live videos, but if I have time in between, I will reply to messages as well. Yeah, so I wonder if you have any more questions. I've put the sign up link below. There are still some spots available. So as I said, registration closes today. I haven't really got a time limit for today, but I know that today will end somewhere in the world at some point. Everybody will be on May 29th, and by then registration is closed, basically. So what I will do is I'll pick up the rest of your signups tomorrow morning, because I know my day is ending, but a lot of you are still in the middle of it. So you have enough time to sign up till the end of your day, wherever you are. And yeah, I placed a lot of the orders already with pharmacy. So people that have signed up already, your orders have already been placed. So that should be exciting news to you. You should be getting a head start. And then those of you that are signing up later today, your remedies will be ordered this week. You should get them as soon as possible. And oh, there's another question. You may have said this, but the connection keeps cutting out for me. Are there any common side effects or reactions with detoxing? No, I haven't talked about that extensively. It's a really good question. There are no side effects. Now, that's to say, that doesn't mean there are no reactions, because you can get reactions. Because if your body starts to heal, then it can throw symptoms. It's the same as when we have a virus or a bacterial infection, then we get sick, right? And that being sick is always seen as something bad, but actually it's a healing mechanism. Like your fever, you're trying to burn away the infection, for example. Or, yeah, I think that's a really good example. Yeah, that's a good example. So that's also possible with the detoxing. I don't see it so much with synthetic hormone detoxing. What I do see is that cycles look really messed up in the beginning. I've had patients that suddenly spot for an entire week, or ovulation is later, or their cycle is much shorter. Now that's all okay. That is just you clearing things out. So if that happens in your cycle, that's absolutely fine. It just means that your body is reorganizing. It's all fine. It's like when you go Marie Kondo style, is what I say about your house. Initially, your house looks like a huge mess because everything's been pulled out of the cabinets. And it's the same with the detoxing. Metals, it's a bit of a different story. Sorry, I'm really itchy. It's because of my hair. My hair is bothering me. With metal detoxing, it can be different. Some people don't react at all. Nothing happens. And some people might come down with something, or if they have restless legs, it only gets a little bit worse, but it's always short-lived. And then after that, it gets way better. So you get a little worsening and then huge improvement afterwards. Or it can affect your sleep perhaps, or some people might have a bout of diarrhea because their body is clearing, or suddenly their sweat or their urine starts to smell like metals. So there are lots of different reactions that are possible. And that's why with teaching the protocol, I don't just want to send out instructions and say, have fun, get on with it. That's the reason I've started the group and why I'm doing the weekly videos, because I want to help you interpret your reactions right from the beginning so that you know what to do in the future, rather than you just getting remedies and instructions, which would be really easy to do, but I don't think it would help you a lot. I hope that answers your question well enough, Kristen, but we'll go into this more in the group itself as well. Is metformin considered a fertility drug? Yep. Good question. Actually, I can look it up, which things. Shall I do that? Let's see if I can find that quickly, because I have a list on my computer. Hopefully I can find this quickly, otherwise you're going to get bored. I should be able to find this fast. Pharmacy. There we go. Yes, I almost have it. So as far as fertility drugs, Femara and Clomid are the obvious ones. And then metformin is one that is included in that detox. And I'm looking at the rest. Where are we? Also HCG hormone as well. And actually oxytocin is also in that. So if you've had labor drugs, if you've only had oxytocin or pitocin during labor, no epidural or anything, and you've had fertility drugs, and you want to detox both, then you only need to do the fertility drugs one. I hope that makes sense. But if you've had more, like epidural, etc., then you still want to do both. And also progesterone is part of that as well, because if you've had progesterone for a longer period of time, that can mess you up too. So that's definitely part of it. Right. So I wonder if you have any more questions. I know those questions come in a bit later than when I'm talking, but I have been talking for 45 minutes. You're still here. You're amazing. You're very sweet. Thanks for keeping me company. Just kidding. If you have any more questions, definitely type them in the box. Sign up link available. Can't wait to start. I think this will be fun. I've never done this before, but I think it will be super empowering. I can teach you lots, and I look forward to that, because when I go on maternity leave, I feel like you guys are actually doing something that will really aid you in your fertility journey. And I hope lots of you will fall pregnant already then. And if not, then if you want to start working with me in January, you can sign up for the waiting list, so you'll be the first to hear it. And then you know that you've shaved off a lot of time of your fertility treatment, because you've already done all the detoxes that I usually start with. And then we can start tweaking and playing around with the homeopathic remedies that are indicated for you personally and your chart. So, is it okay to start a detox in the midst of a miscarriage? You could, but I think I would probably wait. If you are currently miscarrying, then yeah, I would probably wait. If that's the case for you, then I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry to read that. You're one of many, and this is why the detoxes are really important for a lot of you. Yeah, maybe more questions will come in. I don't know, but I think I need to stop the video at some point. So you know what? If I see more questions show up here, I will check back later tonight before I go to bed and then answer those on my phone. I will type it out. And as I said, I look forward to seeing a lot of you in the groups. And thank you for joining me and doing this first live video with me. I might do it in the future again. Although you see, I ramble a lot more when I don't prepare. I've got another video coming up on Thursday that will be another question and answers. I've already received lots of questions that I'll be answering. That one won't be live, so that won't be so long as this one. But you can look out for that video. And then I want to wish you a really wonderful rest of your day or evening, wherever you are, and I will see you around. Bye, lovelies.